It was just past midnight when billionaire Ethan Cole returned home earlier than anyone expected. The marble floors of his mansion echoed with the quiet steps of a man who had spent years chasing success, only to find that peace was the one thing money couldn't buy. He loosened his tie, heading toward the nursery where his infant son, Noah, usually slept soundly. But when he pushed the door open, the crib was empty. The soft blue blanket was gone. Panic struck instantly. Ethan's heart raced as he called for the night staff. No answer. His mind flooded with fear, but something told him to check outside. The night air was cool, the garden lamps glowing faintly across the long driveway. That's when he saw her, Maria, his maid, sitting on a wooden bench near the gate, fast asleep. Her head rested against the backrest, her uniform wrinkled and her hands still cradling something close to her chest. Ethan stepped closer and froze. It was his son, Noah, wrapped in that same blue blanket, sleeping peacefully in Maria's arms. For a moment, Ethan didn't know what to think. This was a woman who quietly cleaned his house, cooked his meals, and always kept her distance. She had never once crossed any line, never even looked him in the eye longer than a second. And yet here she was, outside in the cold, holding his child as if he were her own. His first instinct was anger. How dare she take his baby out of the house? But as he stood there watching, something about the scene stopped him from speaking. The way she held Noah wasn't careless or wrong. It was gentle, protective, full of warmth that he, despite being Noah's father, had rarely shown. He slowly approached, his footsteps crunching against the gravel. Maria stirred awake, startled to find him standing there. Her eyes widened in fear, her lips trembling as she whispered, "Sir, please, I can explain." But her voice cracked, and tears filled her eyes before she could say more. Ethan didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at her, really looked at her, for the first time. There was exhaustion in her face, but also something deeper, pain. He noticed a small cut on her hand, the faint bruise near her wrist, and the way she instinctively shielded Noah even as she trembled. "Why are you out here?" he finally asked, his tone lower than usual. Maria hesitated, glancing down at the baby. "I didn't want to wake him," she whispered. "He was crying, and I didn't want to disturb you." But Ethan could sense there was more, something she wasn't saying. Her voice carried a truth she was too afraid to reveal. As the night stretched on, the sound of distant thunder rolled through the sky, and the mansion lights flickered faintly. Something about this moment didn't feel simple anymore. Ethan had 100 questions running through his mind, but none prepared him for what he was about to discover. Because that night, on that quiet bench under the stars, he was about to uncover a secret that would change everything he thought he knew about his son and the woman holding him. Ethan stood in silence for a long time, his thoughts clouded with confusion and unease. The sound of the wind rustling through the trees filled the empty space between them. Maria sat still, afraid to move, afraid to speak. Her eyes flickered between Ethan's face and the baby sleeping peacefully in her arms. It was a fragile moment. One wrong word could shatter it. Ethan finally broke the silence. "Maria, tell me the truth. Why were you really out here?" His voice was calm, but there was a firmness that made her tremble. She hesitated, brushing her hand over the baby's blanket. "I couldn't sleep," she whispered softly. "Noah woke up crying again, and I didn't want to disturb you. I thought maybe some fresh air would help him calm down." Her explanation sounded simple, but her eyes told a different story. There was something behind them, something heavy. Ethan wasn't a man easily fooled. Years of business and power had taught him how to read people, and he could tell she was holding something back. He crouched down beside her, his expression softening. "You could have stayed inside, Maria. You didn't need to come out here in the cold." Maria swallowed hard, gripping Noah a little tighter. "Sometimes it's quieter out here," she murmured. "He sleeps better when I hum to him. Inside, he wakes up crying again." Ethan studied her face in the dim light. Her eyes were tired, her cheeks hollow, but there was tenderness in every word she spoke. He'd hired her just 3 months ago after the previous nanny suddenly quit. She'd come with excellent references, quiet and hardworking, and never caused a problem. But now, standing under the faint glow of the garden lamps, Ethan realized he knew almost nothing about her. "Where are you from, Maria?" he asked quietly. She froze for a moment, her lips parting as if she wasn't sure how to answer. "A small town far from here," she said finally. "I came to the city looking for work. I needed something steady." Ethan nodded slowly, sensing again that she was careful with her words. Something about the way she avoided his eyes made his chest tighten with suspicion. He looked down at Noah, who stirred slightly, and then back at her. "You seem very close to him," he said. "More than just his caretaker." Maria's eyes glistened. "He's a sweet child," she said softly. "Anyone would care for him." But that wasn't the whole truth either. Ethan could feel it. There was a strange familiarity in the way she rocked the baby, the way she whispered him as if he meant more than just a job. He stood, his gaze shifting toward the house where the golden lights flickered through the windows. "Go inside," he said finally, his tone unreadable. "We'll talk about this in the morning." Maria nodded silently and walked past him, carrying Noah close to her chest. Ethan watched her until she disappeared through the doors. When he finally went back inside, the unease wouldn't leave him. He poured himself a glass of water, his mind replaying every detail. The way she looked at the baby, the fear in her eyes, the hesitation in her voice. He went upstairs to check the security cameras, something he hadn't done in weeks. As the footage rolled back from earlier that night, Ethan leaned forward, his pulse quickening. There on the screen, he saw Maria entering the nursery around midnight, holding Noah in her arms. But what caught his attention wasn't that. It was a figure standing briefly at the window behind her, a shadow, someone outside. Ethan's breath caught. Who was that? And why had Maria gone outside right after? He paused the footage, staring at the dark shape in the corner of the screen. Something about this was deeply wrong. And as the clock struck 1 a.m., he realized the night wasn't over. In fact, it was just beginning. Ethan couldn't shake off what he had seen on the footage. The image of that shadowy figure near the nursery window haunted him. It wasn't just a trick of the light. Someone had been there. Someone watching. His first thought was security. He checked the perimeter cameras. But strangely, the footage from the side gate, where the figure might have come from, was missing. The file was blank, overwritten or deleted. That sent a chill down his spine. Only 2 people had access to the system. Him and Maria. The next morning, sunlight poured into the living room, but the air in the mansion felt heavy. Maria was already up, quietly preparing breakfast. She looked tired, her face pale as if she hadn't slept much. Ethan walked in, his voice calm but sharp. "Maria, did you notice anyone outside last night?" She froze, the cup in her hand trembling slightly. "Outside?" she repeated. "No, sir. Why?" "I checked the cameras," Ethan said. "Someone was near the nursery window before you took Noah out." Her eyes widened for a brief moment, then quickly lowered. "I didn't see anyone," she whispered. "Maybe it was just a reflection." Ethan studied her carefully. "You sure about that?" Maria nodded, but he could tell she was hiding something. He didn't push further, not yet. He needed to understand who she really was and why she was lying. After breakfast, he called his private investigator, a man named Harris, who had helped with security before. "I need you to dig into someone," Ethan said quietly. "Her name's Maria Alvarez. She's been working for me for 3 months. I want to know everything, where she came from, who she worked for before, any family she has." Harris didn't ask questions. "Consider it done," he said. Later that afternoon, Maria took Noah for a walk in the garden. She looked peaceful, but her thoughts were in turmoil. She knew Ethan was suspicious now. She had seen the tension in his eyes, the way he studied her every move. For months, she had kept her secret buried. But now, one sleepless night had started to unravel everything. She looked down at the baby in her arms, his soft face, his tiny hands gripping her finger, and her eyes filled with tears. "I promised I'd protect you," she whispered, "no matter what it takes." From the balcony above, Ethan watched them quietly. There was something haunting in the way Maria held his son, an emotion too deep for a simple caretaker. It wasn't just affection. It was love mixed with pain. He didn't know why, but the thought unsettled him more than anything. That night, Harris called back. His voice was low. Ethan, I don't know what's going on, but this woman, Maria Alvarez, doesn't exist. At least, not officially. The ID she used when she applied for the job was fake. The background references? Also fake. But here's the strange part. She matches a description of a woman reported missing nearly a year ago. Ethan gripped the phone tighter. Missing? From where? From a small town 2 states away. She was listed under a different name, Mariana Lopez. The report says she disappeared with an infant after leaving a local hospital. Ethan's heart dropped. An infant? Yes, Harris said. About the same age as your son. Ethan didn't respond. His mind was spinning. Could it be a coincidence? Or was a woman sleeping under his roof hiding a past tied directly to his child? As he ended the call, he looked toward the nursery door where the faint sound of Noah's laughter echoed. Maria was inside, singing softly to him. For the first time, Ethan wasn't sure who he should be afraid of, the shadow he saw outside the window or the woman who was already inside his home. The truth was closing in on him, and deep down, he sensed it wouldn't stay hidden much longer. Ethan couldn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Maria's face, her trembling hands, her soft voice, the way she looked at his son. The pieces weren't fitting together, and that only made the unease inside him grow. He paced the long hallway outside the nursery, his mind caught between disbelief and fear. If Maria had lied about her name and past, what else was she hiding? And what did the missing baby from that police report have to do with his own son? The storm outside had started again, thunder rumbling low across the city. The mansion lights flickered faintly as Ethan walked toward his study. He opened his safe, pulled out a small folder, and flipped through Noah's hospital records. The birth certificate, the adoption paperwork, everything his late wife had handled before she passed. But as he read through the documents, something strange caught his eye. One of the hospital's signatures. The nurse who'd signed off on the newborn's file read M. Lopez. Ethan froze. Lopez, the same name Harris mentioned. His heart began to pound. He rushed to the desk and opened his laptop, cross-checking the details Harris had sent earlier. It was her, the same handwriting, the same initials. He leaned back, staring blankly at the screen. Could Maria, or Mariana, have been there when Noah was born? Why would she lie? Was she connected to his son before he even brought him home? Suddenly, a sound cut through his thoughts, a faint creak from upstairs. Ethan looked toward the hallway. The nursery. He bolted out of the room, his footsteps echoing through the quiet mansion. The door to Noah's room was half open, light spilling through the crack. He pushed it open slowly, holding his breath. Maria stood by the crib, tears streaming down her face as she whispered softly to the sleeping baby. Ethan froze in the doorway, watching her. She hadn't noticed him yet. "I'm so sorry, Noah," she murmured. "I never meant for things to be like this. I just wanted to make sure you were safe." Ethan stepped inside, his voice low but trembling. "Safe from what, Maria?" She turned, startled, clutching the edge of the crib. "Mr. Cole, I didn't hear you come in." "Answer me," he said, stepping closer. "What are you protecting him from? And who are you really?" Maria's lips quivered. For a long moment, she said nothing. The sound of rain tapping against the window filled the silence. Then she whispered, "You shouldn't have seen that footage." Ethan's stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" Her eyes darted toward the window, where lightning briefly illuminated the garden outside. "He found us," she said softly. "The man outside last night. He knows where we are." Ethan's pulse raced. "Who found you?" Maria shook her head, her voice breaking. "Please, you have to trust me. Everything I did was to protect him. To protect your son. But if he gets in this house tonight..." She stopped mid-sentence, her eyes widening toward the window. Ethan turned just in time to see a shadow move across the glass, a dark silhouette standing under the rain, staring straight at them. Without thinking, he rushed to the window, but the figure vanished into the darkness. Maria grabbed Noah from the crib, clutching him close. "We need to leave," she whispered urgently. "Now." Ethan blocked the doorway. "You're not going anywhere until you tell me the truth." Tears rolled down her cheeks. "You don't understand," she said. "He's not just after me. He's after Noah. And if we stay here another minute—" A loud crash echoed from downstairs, cutting her off. The sound of glass shattering filled the air. Ethan's heart dropped. Someone was in the house. He turned to Maria, his voice barely above a whisper. "Take Noah. Stay behind me." She nodded, clutching the baby tightly. The tension was suffocating now. Each sound in the house seemed louder, closer. The storm outside raged, lightning flashing through the windows, illuminating the long corridor ahead. As Ethan moved toward the stairs, he could feel his pulse in his throat. The house that once felt like a fortress now felt like a trap. And somewhere in the shadows below, someone was waiting for them. Ethan moved cautiously down the stairs, his every step deliberate, his senses sharpened by fear. The shattered glass glittered across the marble floor like scattered ice. Rain poured through the open side window, and the curtains billowed wildly with the wind. The air felt thick, heavy with danger. Maria followed quietly behind him, clutching Noah close to her chest. The baby stirred but didn't cry, as if sensing the tension that gripped the house. Ethan scanned the living room, his heart pounding. Nothing seemed out of place except a broken window and a wet footprint on the floor. Just one, faint but clear. Someone had come in, someone who knew exactly how to move quietly. He motioned for Maria to stay back. "Don't make a sound," he whispered. A faint creak came from the study. Ethan turned sharply. He moved toward the sound, his jaw tense, his mind spinning. Who could it be? A thief? Or the man Maria had mentioned? The one who was supposedly after them? When he pushed the study door open, he stopped cold. The lights were off, but a small desk lamp flickered to life, revealing a man sitting calmly in Ethan's chair. His dark coat was soaked, and his eyes were sharp and steady. "You've been hard to find," the man said in a low voice. Maria gasped from behind the door. The man's gaze flicked toward her instantly. "Ah," he said softly. "There you are, Mariana." Ethan turned to look at Maria, confusion and anger colliding inside him. "He knows your real name," he said. "Who is he?" Her face went pale. "Please, don't let him take the baby," she whispered. The man rose slowly from the chair, his calm demeanor almost chilling. "You shouldn't have run," he said. "You took something that wasn't yours, and now I've come to take it back." Ethan stepped forward, blocking his path. "You're not taking anyone," he said firmly. "This is my house, and that's my son." The man tilted his head slightly, a faint smile on his lips. "Is he?" asked. "Are you sure about that?" Ethan froze. The words hit him like a wave. He turned to Maria, his voice shaking. "What is he talking about?" Maria's eyes filled with tears. "I wanted to tell you," she said softly, "but I couldn't. You wouldn't have believed me." "Tell me what?" Ethan demanded. She looked down at the baby in her arms, her voice trembling. "Noah isn't. He isn't who you think he is. The night you adopted him, there was another baby born in that same hospital. My baby. And when I came back the next morning, they told me he was gone." Ethan's mind went blank. "You're saying—" "I'm saying," she interrupted, her tears falling fast, "I think Noah is my son." The room fell silent, except for the sound of thunder outside. The man in the coat took a slow step forward. "Enough of this," he said coldly. "The truth doesn't matter now. What matters is that both of you have something that belongs to us." "Us," Ethan repeated. The man nodded. "The people who funded that hospital. The ones who made sure these children were special." His voice was low, but his words carried something dark, something that made the air grow colder. Maria tightened her grip on Noah, her fear turning into quiet defiance. "You'll never touch him," she whispered. The man's expression hardened. "Then you leave me no choice." Before Ethan could react, the mansion lights flickered and went out completely, plunging him into darkness. Noah began to cry softly, and the sound echoed through the house like a warning. Ethan grabbed Maria's hand. "Upstairs," he whispered urgently. "Now!" They ran through the darkened hallway as lightning flashed behind them, the man's footsteps following close behind. Ethan's thoughts raced. If what Maria said was true, everything about his life, his son, his past, it was all built on a lie. But one thing was clear. Someone powerful had been pulling strings from the start. And tonight, those secrets were no longer staying buried. Ethan and Maria ran up the stairs, their hearts pounding as thunder roared outside. The mansion shook with the force of the storm, and every flash of lightning threw their shadows across the walls. Maria held Noah close, whispering softly to calm him, while Ethan tried to think of a way out. The man was right behind them, his footsteps steady, unhurried, as if he already knew there was nowhere to run. They reached the nursery, and Ethan quickly locked the door. He moved a dresser against it, his breath coming fast. "There's a phone in the study," he muttered. "If I can get to it." "No," Maria said, clutching his arm. "He's not working alone. They'll be watching. Please, listen to me. This isn't just about the baby." Ethan turned to her, frustration and fear mixed in his eyes. "Then tell me what this is about." Maria took a deep breath, tears streaking her face. "That hospital, it wasn't normal. They took babies from mothers who didn't have money or family support. They told us it was for medical care, for protection. But they lied. They used the children for research, experiments. When I found out, I tried to escape. I took my baby and ran. That man, he worked for them. He's been hunting me ever since." Ethan stared at her, his chest tightening. "So you're saying Noah was part of that? That he's not mine?" She shook her head. "No, Ethan. You raised him. You love him. That's what makes you his father. But biologically, he was mine first. They switched the files. I didn't even know he was alive until I saw his picture, when you hired me." Ethan felt the world tilt around him. Everything, every memory, every quiet night feeding Noah, every laugh, suddenly carried new meaning. But there was no time to process it. The doorknob began to turn slowly. Ethan stepped in front of Maria and the baby. "Stay behind me," he said. The man's voice came from the other side. "You can't hide from this, Mr. Cole. You don't know what you've been living with. That child is valuable, more than you can imagine. Hand him over, and I'll let you both walk away." Ethan tightened his grip on the makeshift weapon he grabbed. A metal lamp from the dresser. "You'll have to go through me first." The man forced the door open with a loud crash, and for a moment, everything blurred. The thunder, the shouting, the flash of lightning that illuminated his face. He pulled something from his coat, but before he could take another step, Ethan lunged. They collided, crashing into the dresser. The struggle was desperate and clumsy, but Ethan's determination overpowered fear. Maria screamed, clutching Noah as the two men fought. The man tried to reach for Ethan again, but his foot slipped on the wet floor, sending him backward into a window. The glass shattered, and the storm wind roared through the room. For a split second, time stood still. Then the man disappeared into the darkness below. The house fell silent except for the sound of rain and Noah's soft cries. Maria sank to the floor, shaking, while Ethan leaned against the wall, his body trembling with adrenaline. "It's over," he whispered. "It's finally over." But then, just as he reached for Maria, a faint beeping sound came from the man's coat near the shattered window. Ethan stepped closer and picked up a small black device, no bigger than a pager. The screen blinked once and displayed 2 words, "Backup activated." Ethan looked at Maria, his stomach dropping. Outside, in the distance, the faint hum of engines grew louder, multiple vehicles approaching through the rain. Maria's eyes widened in horror. "They're coming," she whispered. He wasn't alone. Ethan held Noah close, his voice steady despite the fear rising in him. "Then we're not running anymore," he said. "We're ending this, tonight." Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the long driveway where dark SUVs were pulling up one by one. The storm raged harder than ever, but inside the mansion, something stronger had awakened. 2 parents, bound by love, fear, and shared truth that would change everything forever. The sound of approaching vehicles echoed through the storm as Ethan stood frozen by the window. The faint glow of headlights cut through the rain, growing brighter with each passing second. Maria held Noah close, her heart pounding so hard she could barely breathe. It felt like the world outside was closing in on them. But Ethan wasn't the same man he had been hours ago. Something had changed in him, something fierce and unshakable. He turned to Maria, his voice calm but filled with resolve. There's a storage tunnel that leads out behind the garage. It was built years ago for emergencies. Take Noah and go through it. I'll hold him off. Maria's eyes filled with tears. I'm not leaving you, she whispered. Ethan stepped closer, gently brushing Noah's cheek. He's all that matters now, he said softly. Protect him. That's what both of us want. The headlights outside stopped, and car doors opened. Shadows moved quickly toward the house. Maria hesitated for a second, then nodded. I'll wait for you, she said, her voice trembling, as she disappeared into the tunnel door behind the nursery wall. Ethan took a deep breath and turned off the lights. The mansion went dark again, silent except for the storm and the sound of footsteps approaching. He stood still in the shadows, heart steady, ready for whatever came next. But when the front door burst open, it wasn't what he expected. Instead of armed men, it was Harris, his investigator, soaked and breathless. Ethan, he shouted. They're gone. I traced their signal. They pulled back when the tracker went offline. You're safer now. Ethan stared at him, disbelieving. Gone. Harris nodded, wiping rain from his face. Whoever was behind this realized their man failed. They won't risk another scene tonight. But this, it's bigger than we thought. I found documents linking that hospital to a private biotech firm. They've been running illegal genetic studies for years. Ethan's stomach turned. He thought of Maria's words, of the hospital records, of the lies that had built his perfect life. And the children? He asked quietly. Harris looked down. Some were never found. But now that we know the truth, we can stop them. Ethan didn't wait for another word. He ran back toward the nursery tunnel, calling Maria's name. She was waiting just beyond the exit, drenched in the rain, but still clutching Noah close to her chest. When she saw him, her face broke into tears of relief. They're gone, he said softly, pulling her close. It's over. For a long moment, they stood there in the rain, holding each other. There were no more lies left between them, only the fragile truth of what they had endured. Noah stirred in Maria's arms, his tiny fingers brushing Ethan's hand. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Ethan smiled. Weeks later, the mansion was quiet again. The police had taken statements. The investigation had begun, and the biotech company was already under scrutiny. Harris's report had made its way to the authorities, and the truth was finally coming to light. Maria stayed, not as a maid anymore, but as part of the family. She and Ethan shared long talks in the evenings, not about the past, but about the future, about Noah and what he meant to both of them. Love had grown from something unexpected, something broken, yet it was real and strong in a way neither of them could explain. Ethan often stood by the nursery window late at night, watching the moonlight spill over the garden where everything had begun. The world outside was still uncertain, but inside the house, there was peace. He had lost everything once to secrets and lies, but he had gained something far greater, a family bound not by blood, but by courage, sacrifice, and truth. And as Noah's soft laughter echoed down the hall, Ethan realized that sometimes the most shocking discoveries aren't the ones that destroy you. They're the ones that finally show you what truly matters.